Hey everyone, welcome in. We've got a really cool video for you guys today. So, we have loved the adaptive format for a long time now. Well, we really think it demonstrates how awesome Keyforge can be, some of the unique aspects of the game. So, today we want to demonstrate how an adaptive match is played, what it's like from the perspective of each player, some of the intricacies of the format, really just showcase how awesome adaptive is. So we have two of our team members, Freddy and Alex, who are going to place an adaptive match against each other. Kav and I will be casting the game and interviewing the players between rounds, getting their thoughts and opinions on how the games went and what their strategies are. So without any further ado, let's hop into the games. Okay, so we've got Freddy on the line here. Freddy, do you want to tell us a little bit about the deck you chose for adaptive?
Sure, yeah. So this is a really interesting deck, really cool deck. It's got some fun pieces to it. The first thing to know about this deck is it's a sting deck, right? So that completely changes how you can play this deck. And the thing that I like about it is it's a sting deck where you can get sting out pretty quickly. So I think that's one of the most important things about having the card. Ideally, the best scenario is where you're at 1 key to 0, you play the sting, and then you build up a large pool of amber, and then you can pop it later. But you've already got that 1 key lead. This deck will let you get the sting out quickly enough that you have it in the first third of the game, because if you look especially at the logos, you'll see a ton of archiving. First of all, 2 lab works, random access, Mobius scroll. You just Ganymede Archivist. You have all this archiving. You have a phase shift on top of that. You have Scrambler Storms, which can slow down the opponent, so it's a stalling tactic as well. But what's really cool about this deck is that it's a Key of Darkness key charge deck. So you can't forge with the sting during your forge step, but you still can forge using key cheats. So key charge, Key of Darkness lets you forge 2 keys. The +8 tag on Key of Darkness doesn't even hurt that much because you're getting 6 amber for the sting. So you let your opponent forge, you play Key of Darkness, and you're really paying 2 extra because you have the sting down. And actually, maybe you're paying even more than that you're paying even less than that because if you have Mermooks down, your opponent's paying even more for their key. A couple of other cool things about this deck, obviously, 2 Witch of the Eyes, so you can potentially recur the key charge or Nature's Call, right? Good anti-dino. Cooperative Huntings to ping wards. You've got a Secret Needle, Bad Penny combo. A Shadow Self is great here. So just all around, a lot of fun, a lot of cool pieces, and I think a complex deck which will work well for an adaptive setting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It looks like you have a strategy that's not really apparent the first time you look at this deck, but yeah, you got a clear path to victory. That's really
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
think I really like. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, I think I really like the disruption components of this, and sticking to some of the core principles of what the different houses like to do. Logos has a good amount of draw, whether it's virtual or real, with guys like Ganymede Archivist or Lab Work that just allow you to put a card away. Those combo pieces that you want. And the Shadows is extremely disruptive with what you said, Sting, which I don't think people are generally ready to play around. And then, of course, you have your bursty key charge moments with Untamed. So it's got the good archetypical traits of each of the houses, but I think they present them in necessarily the most straightforward manner, which is great for adaptive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Freddie, as you know, you're playing the first game with your deck when you play adaptive. Is there any strategy that you would employ, not necessarily showing what this deck is supposed to do or what you think this deck will do on the first game, giving the deck to your opponent and they may not understand what it's supposed to do, and they may undervalue it for the third game?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I don't think I've played this deck enough to try to get that fancy with it. Because it's such a tricky deck to play, I think that it's trying to do something like that means you're playing suboptimally, and with this deck, I think just playing optimally is hard enough that it might not even be apparent to my opponent how this deck is supposed to play if I'm playing it correctly. So I think for this one, I like the strategy, but I think for this one, it's just try to play this deck as best you can and really try to learn what the opponent's going to do.
And just for those who don't know the words optimally and suboptimally, could you give us a quick definition of that?
Oh, I mean, it's nothing Nothing specific. Just try to pressure the opponent, right? So try to go up to check as much as possible, or threaten check. Maybe you're not going to check because you have the sting out, but threaten that key charge, threaten having board control, whatever it is. Don't try to like come up with these sort of more tricky plays where it's I'm going to archive, all my untamed creatures and then hope that I draw the hunting witch, play them all down, or build up a board and hold on to Stampede so that I can steal and they won't see it coming. Nothing. I don't think that you want to do anything like that. I think you just want to play out as much as you can, putting them off check and forging keys, however that might be with this deck.
Okay, cool. Well, I think this is going to be a really cool deck to watch and adapt to. I'm really excited to see the games.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, well, thank you, Freddy.
Yep.
Okay, so now we have with us Freddy's opponent, Alex. Alex is playing Pinkgam, the Ecru Marketplace Sculptor. Alex, do you want to tell us a little bit about why you chose this deck for adaptive, what you think the strengths are, and maybe the weaknesses?
Yeah, sure. So one of the main reasons is because it's a deck I'm pretty familiar with. I've played it quite a bit, so I kind of know it in and out. And I think that's one of the critical things for adaptive. You want to pick a deck you're familiar with. Another reason is because there are quite a few decision points. There's a bit of archiving, so you have to kind of choose what you want to archive and build up for those big turns. And knowing when to pick up your archive and actually go for those big plays can be a tricky thing to do sometimes. Another reason is because this deck wants to get a Saurian board down. It's got 6 Saurian creatures, 4 of which are Theros Centaurians. That's one of its main ways of amber control with city gates as well. But there is a regrettable meteor in the deck with 2 wild wormholes. So if you're not careful and you don't recognize that, you could accidentally screw yourself up pretty badly by a wild wormholing into it. So typically with this deck, that's one of the things I archive away and just never worry about ever again. The deck also has a very strong Starlance house with 9 creatures, but those creatures also kind of enable some like interesting decisions. Like you have 2 Commander Chans, so it's like using those, what do you use off of that reap ability or fight ability? Most of the time you're reaping with it. And then with Tabor, obviously that's anything off house, so what do you do with that as well? There's just a few interesting decision points with the deck.
Yeah, so it just looks like a really good deck that's a little bit complicated that you know really well.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, and I like the strategy of having a deck where there's so many decision points. The play is not necessarily what the deck is trying to do against the other deck. It's almost trying to take off as much processing power from the player's side as much as possible, so you catch them in maybe some missteps or some suboptimal plays.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Alex.
No problem.
Okay, so we've got our game in progress. Alex against Freddy.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting game. We have a combo deck versus one that's meant to disrupt the opponent's line of thinking while keeping a fairly straightforward strategy if you are the person who knows how to play it. So I think it's going to be kind of a race. Who can get set up first? Obviously, that works in most Keyforge games, but if Alex gets set up with his 18 creatures that are fairly effective versus Freddy's, who are more, you got to get them in the right order, this could really come down to the first 3 really being set up.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that setup is so key. And Alex leads off with the Dilophosaurus, so obviously an excellent setup card.
Yeah, great setup. Oh, response
there it is, the Witch of the Eye.
Yeah. And
the
Freddy
eye.
said this, right? Yeah. Witch of the Eye and bouncing the Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus is basically a dino witch in itself. So
Exactly,
you really
yeah.
let that stay on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really bad start for Alex. So I don't think I see a way in Alex's hand to deal with the Witch of the Eye. If he can't deal with it, Freddy's going to be able to go untamed again, reap with the Witch of the Eye, Nature's Call any creatures he plays. And we know
That's right.
We know how important it is for Alex to set up that creature board.
Definitely. And, generally, I feel like when you have that that little loop set up, you're really hoping to have another Untamed or two. He doesn't seem to have that in this instance, but it's still a pretty decent setup for maybe at least one more turn. I think I probably wouldn't go too far past one more turn of disrupting his plays because of the number of Shadows cards that he has. And it's already tempting. He's got an Oubliette that's facing off against an Eddy, so he can just remove that immediately and take that key threat, the key charge, sorry, not the key charge, but the key cost threat off the board.
Yeah, it looks like he does just that.
Yep. Yeah, Freddy even said so, right? He wants to play optimally. He's not looking for combos. He's going to try to force the opponent to respond to him, and then if they don't, burn the witch, then he's gonna let that loop go off as soon as he gets an Untamed.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Alex's hand is actually not too bad. The Regrettal Meteor is out pretty early, which in this instance isn't terrible. It doesn't really hit anything on Freddy's side, but at the very least, he's not at risk of Wild Wormholing it, so now his Wild Wormholes are active.
Right.
And he's got a 3/3 hand, 3 pretty impactful Star Alliance cards as well that are good enablers.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's probably looking just to dig.
Yeah. It definitely was an interesting decision whether he wanted to go Star Alliance or Saurian here. Saurian to set up that Golden Spiral, it's so good to have that in play early. You just get so much value out of it. And that's exactly what he did. The Star Alliance turn wasn't bad at all either. He gets 3 pretty powerful creatures out. But right now, looking at this hand, he fortunately drew into more Star Alliance cards, so he's going to have a really strong turn next turn.
Definitely, and it looks like the Scrambler Storm that Freddy wants to play is not really going to hit for much here, which that's, the point of Scrambler Storm. Sometimes it disrupts, sometimes it doesn't, but he does have 2, so even if he gets it out now, he is threatening a second one. Although it looks like he goes for the Untamed play, again, just to set up the disruption. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this, I think the reason Freddy went for this turn is that he can go to check here.
That's right. Yep, and there goes the witch.
There goes the witch. Absolutely.
Yeah. 3 Amber on a Thera Centurion, protected by Brutodon Auxiliary. That's a pretty scary little combo in itself, setup in itself. And then there's a Dilophosaurus right there as well. And things are starting to just, I think, turn the corner here for a setup on Alex's side.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's got 2 really great turns, right? He can just go Saurian and have a totally fine turn. He's also got, 6 Star Alliance cards in his hand.
Now, this is really interesting. So Freddy's got the Sting, and I think we heard him say he's going to wait for Alex to get right into check so he can drop that. And his hand seems to be playing along with it, right? He's got 3 Logos cards, so he doesn't need enough to play the Sting right now, and those 3 Logos cards are worth a virtual 5. So it looks like he's set up for a Sting turn for the future, which is exactly where he wants to be. I think Freddy's probably looking at his hand right now on his board, and he's probably pretty happy, even though he knows that Alex hasn't really got a chance to set up, and he's probably in for some bit of a beating down the road. His plan is starting to come together.
Yeah, definitely, and it looks like Alex is going to go into check this turn, so
yep,
he'll be ready for that with the Sting in hand. But
that's right.
Alex has just reaped twice in the same turn with a Dilophosaurus, and that just feels backbreaking.
Brutal. Yeah, it's not fun to see that when your opponent does a double reap with Phil.
Yes.
So let's see. So if you're Alex at this point, what are we looking for? He clearly doesn't have the ability to do a mass board wipe. Most of his creature removal is through interaction, right? He's got 1 Positron Bolt, and then everything else really creatures swinging in. So if I were him, I guess he's probably looking to set up a big Star Alliance turn and then just be able to say, Star Alliance for I don't know how many ever turns it needs to in order to continue getting checked, and is looking to race out that Sting. Freddy over here, I think, if he were to suspect that, knows that all he needs to do is look for his key cheats, and he's probably going to get the game at that point. So we're on the situation where we're waiting for this massive invasion, Space Invaders versus 2 combo cards out of Freddy's deck here. It's a really interesting point in the game.
It really is, and I think like you said, Alex has identified that Freddy doesn't really have a way to deal with multiple creatures at once. So if he dumps his hand of 5 creatures, you're absolutely right. I think he'll just go Star Alliance and continue to get value out of those creatures.
That's right, and really ask Freddy to say, like, you better have something that answers this. Interestingly, since there is no artifact interaction on either side here, Golden Spiral and the Sting are just going to be live the entire game, which, I'm always a fan of having a little bit of artifact interaction. Both of these players chose not to, which is totally valid, I think, and adaptive, and really, I think, puts the pressure on having that exact piece, the Golden Spiral or the Sting out right on time.
So it looks like Freddy chose to archive his Sting instead of play it this turn. So Alex is going to get that key as far as I see.
Yeah, it looks like he's willing to give up first or Alex's first key. Doesn't care to throw the Sting out now. That was an interesting decision. Freddy knows his deck pretty well, so that he probably has a plan for how he wants to continue that. One of the things is he's looking at his Amber and he's like, I'm at 10. I don't even need to play this thing. I can just keep pushing my advantage the way I have right now and continue to win the game, and then have the Sting as a final resort. The Sting is one of those cards where getting it out early is actually, I think, the preferable move, because you just get more instances of getting your opponent's Amber. But like we just said, Freddy is up, so.
Right. We did hear Freddy say during the pregame interview that he wants to forge his first key naturally so that he can get the second 2 keys from the Key of Darkness
That's right.
key charge. That might be his thought process here.
Sure.
And even with, 7 Star Alliance cards in his hand, Alex still chooses to go Saurian, and it's totally fine. I think it's still a great play.
That's right. I think it's really hard to not take 2 reap off of Phil, and here he has with an Ancient Power and 3 Sarah Centurions. This is a hard board to stare back at. And
how do you break through this? This is such an incredible board. The City-State Ancient Power combo, every Saurian player's dream. And
that's right.
Alex just pulls it off. Although it's not exactly hard to pull it off with 2 reaps from a Falaphosaurus.
That's actually really interesting. City-State interest, having a big board is a pretty decent counter to Sting, right? Which isn't something that you normally get to face.
Mm-hmm.
So that works out well in his favor. If I were Freddy, I'm sitting here like, man, maybe I should have played the Sting early just to get that original 6 Amber.
Yeah. Right, now he's kind of in the position where he has a Shadows turn and he does play the Sting, but he's not going to immediately profit off of it. And he still didn't forge his first key. That City-State interest was so well timed by Alex.
Yeah, that's really I think it's a testament to both these players are playing, their strategies very well. But Alex, he knew that he was coming in and had to put out the Saurian pressure when he needed to. And then, now that we're seeing the plan develop, I think his idea was, I want to get my dinos out, get as much value off of them as possible. And when the opponent has exhausted all their resources to get rid of these big, fat creatures, I'm going to just invade the board with the Space Boy Scouts and really I think that's your favorite phrase of them, right? Space Boys.
That's
Boy Scouts.
right.
And then just be able to get value once the opponent's resources are completely exhausted. So both
Yeah.
players playing very well.
Mm-hmm.
So he does have, he still has a Murmuk, and this is pretty interesting because he eventually can put that Murmuk out, push the amber the key costs for Alex up 1, and then get 7 amber back rather than 6. So his Murmuk is actually paying back with some profit here, but he is still behind, and he can't play. He still can't play the Sting, even though he had Key of Darkness, which he had to pitch, because Alex is just never at 0 amber.
Mm-hmm. Is this the 4th turn in a row we see Alex go Saurian?
I think so, and a City Gates is out, which is never fun to see.
No.
You have this many dinos out.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, this game is quickly running away from Freddy's plan.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good plan, but I think Alex just pushed through.
Yeah. Yeah, Alex right now holding on to about 2 keys worth of amber on his dinosaurs.
That's right. Two keys worth of amber and on almost 3/4 of his star line.
Yeah. And just reaping twice with the Dilophosaurus every single turn allows Alex to say, all right, I'm gonna play these Saurian cards and I'm gonna use them for their value immediately. And if you deal with it, guess what? I've got 10 Star Alliance cards in my hand, 9 right now, ready to reload just immediately.
And now this is really interesting. So Freddy threw out a Shadow Self, I think presumably hoping that his Dodger could come in on a future turn to start popping some wards and maybe getting some bit of control back in his court here. But it seems like Alex saw that as an opportunity to say, you were willing to put out a creature that can't damage my creatures back. I'm just going to go in on the free hit, capture 2 more amber with my Thera Centurions, and now your Dodger still doesn't have an for what I'm putting out.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like Alex forges for 8 here with the term 2 Murmuks in play, and he pays that all right to Freddy.
Yep. Yeah, so I think it looks like the next turn is going to be a Shadow's turn on Freddy's side, and he's going to want to pop the Sting and maybe start doing some reaping. That's a valid option here. I think getting the Sting, or he starts using his Untamed creatures in order to throw out a key charge soon. Well, he's got a few options here.
He does, yeah.
Presumably, you could also do that with his Logos turn too. So yeah, he's actually got a few different options on this side. Alex's side of the board, pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
He's got all the pieces he needs for as long as he needs them.
Yep. 5th turn in a row here, going Saurian, just reaping out.
And he's made it through his entire deck, just with Phil. So there you go.
Yeah.
Golden Spiral plus Phil.
I don't think
Amazing
I've seen
draw.
a game with more Dilophosaurus reaps before.
That's right. And this is interesting. So Brutodom Auxiliary was chosen as the target for the gate, and he is notably not a dinosaur, which
That's
is
right.
one of the most unintuitive components of this game, tripping up players new and experienced.
Yep.
So he only captured 1 amber rather than the possible 2, although it doesn't seem like either really matters to the moment. Okay, and he had Brutodon Auxiliary be the one to fight the Witch. I think he's signaling that, look, you can go ahead and take down my the taunt beast that I have here, but it's going to cost 2 of your creatures.
Right, it's gonna hurt.
It's going to hurt, so interesting. Well, he does have a Snufflegator, so it technically would only cost 1, but still. It's a pretty hard trade. Yep, okay, so he chose to go Shadows, kind of like we thought, and he is going to start using all the amber that he has in his pool, hopefully to make a mark on the game. He still has 0 keys, although I should say a virtual 1 key with the key charge right now, and the ability to stop Alex from forging his next turn when he gets up to, above 8 amber here. Alex, unsurprisingly, going Saurian again.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like Freddy's ready to say this game's done with.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty brutal start to the series here. Phil was no longer valuable. There's no more cards in the deck, but still there's a lot of pressure, amber control, and Fred doesn't have a way of answering it. So,
yep.
I think game 2 is the move.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll let the players switch, and we'll get back during game 2.
All right. So, Alex, watching that game, it looked pretty one-sided. That was a really strong showing for your deck. Can you tell us what your thoughts were during the game?
Yeah, that's looking at his deck list, that's a really rough matchup. Pretty much other than like the Nature's Call, Witch of the Eye, which he did get early. Kind of had me worried a little bit. I thought I might get locked out, but I think I wild wormholed into a Tau after playing a Tau, which was like super, super good. Thankfully, I was able to find the Golden Spiral early. I knew that was kind of the way I was going to get rid of the Witch of the Eye just immediately. Sort of like a Speed Sigil at that point, except it's only I can use it. Because I knew if I was just playing creatures, I probably wouldn't be able to ready them without them being bounced right back to my hand.
Right.
But yeah, I think once I got the Saurian board down and just put the Dilophosaurus behind Taunt, it was kind of over from that point.
Yeah, I think that was really brutal. Once you set up your board, and it was really cool to see that you had your strategy seemed like put your dinos out, let them do as much as possible, and if they get taken down, you have Starlines as a backup. But once you got Phil behind a taunt creature with the Golden Spiral out, I think Freddy was pretty much very quickly out of options, and you took advantage.
Yeah, there were a couple of turns where it was like I could have played out a bunch of Starlines guys, or I could have activated Dilophosaurus twice, and choosing to activate Dilophosaurus I think was the right call, because I was digging for more Theros-Centurions and also digging for the Ancient Power or City-State Interest Ancient Power combo, which I think once that got played, that was kind of like the nail in the coffin, because it's like you're not going to be able to remove my guys at that point.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Great game. We're going to move on to Freddy, and we'll see you in game 2.
Sounds good.
Okay, we have Freddy here with us after game 1. Freddy, it looks like in the beginning of that game you took a quick lead with Witch of the Eye, Nature's Call, but Alex kind of slowly took it back and got to the point where it felt almost like there was no way for you to come back. Do you want to tell us your thoughts during that game and how you feel going into game 2?
Sure, yeah. I think that's a pretty succinct summary of it. I definitely was a little hesitant to play out the hand that I got, even though it had 4 untamed cards and it was a pretty strong turn. Just playing up the Nature's Call that quickly when I was going to be up against this big Saurian board, and I knew that was a little tough to justify, but I thought that maybe if I could draw into more Untamed, I could get Untamed going, get that first key out quickly, and unfortunately, I think I might have had 1 Untamed card. Yeah, I drew into 1 Untamed card. I went Untamed again, and then I had nothing, and I couldn't just keep reaping with the Witch for 1 every turn and playing Nature's Call. So, forced me off that strategy a little bit, and then at that point, he was able to build out the board. Unfortunately, I had the Sting when I wanted it, but I think he took me down to 5 when I needed to be at 6 to go to check. If I could have forged that first key, I think this game could have gone very differently, because there was a turn where I could have played the Sting out at that point, been up 1 key to 0. I had Key of Darkness in my hand at that point too, and so potentially could have popped the Sting later on, or just forced out Key of Darkness after he forged his first key, and then key charge for the second, I guess second and third. But yeah, this deck's finicky like that, and like Alex said in the chat, I think that this is going to be a really interesting one to see with chains, because even though this game was a blowout, I think that it was actually a lot closer than the score might look. It's really a question of, can you establish that big dino board? And especially once you get the Philosophosaurus down with the Golden Spiral, it can really get out of control. So just if you can get things done before that point, then you're actually in an okay spot. But I'll be interested to see how Alex pilots this in the second game too.
Yeah, we thought it was interesting that you had said you wanted to forge the first key naturally and then get Sting ready. And in this instance, with the Centurions that he had on board, it ruined the plan a little bit, and it kind of made your timing a little suboptimal. And in hindsight, I'm even wondering if throwing the Sting out, even though it wasn't necessarily in line with the strategy, could have been some bit of saving grace. It's hard to tell, because he had a really, really well set up Saurian board, and that engine started going pretty hard when it did. But yeah, it's a hard deck. I think the timing of the pieces is so crucial. Even someone like you who knows this deck, it's always going to be testing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I I did debate throwing out the Sting, just putting it down. I really thought that if I didn't get at least 1 key before I played it, I would have a lot of trouble at that point getting 3 keys, and so I figured it was worth the risk, the hope being that I could just get something done before he got that board built up. But he, once you get a Velocipassaurus behind a Broododon Auxiliary and
right.
just in the discard pile, this deck can't do a whole lot. It does not do well with board control, and that's something that I knew about it going into this game. So it doesn't surprise me that things went the way they did, and I would expect to be able to beat Alex game 2, but again, I think that where this will get interesting is once you start throwing in those chains and slowing down how many dinos you get to see. Then it really, then this Alex's deck will really need to rely on that Philosophosaurus with the Golden Spiral to be able to get the cards out. So, well, that or playing everything out of your hand every turn because you have a ridiculous Star Alliance board. But
that's right.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, we're looking forward to game 2.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Freddy.
Yep.
All right, here we are with the second game with Alex and Freddy. We've got decks swapped here. Let's see how this works out now.
Yeah, I'd like to see what Alex thinks of this deck, since he unfortunately didn't get to see too much of it. So he's going to be tested on how to counter his own deck with not that much information, even though he knows what the deck list is. Really seeing the pieces is what helps solidify it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Freddy's deck naturally being a combo deck that he didn't get to pull off. We'll see if Alex is able to identify this is what this deck's trying to do.
That's right. Okay, and looks like the players are starting, and we've got a 2/2/2 hand on Freddy and a 3/2/2 hand for Alex. Alex is going first, it seems. Let's see if anyone mulligans. Looks like Freddy decided to mulligan.
Yep.
He's got a 2/1/2 hand now, but I think pieces that are a little more malleable. He's got a Tau Vapors, which gives him a draw. And I think it looks like he's probably going to start with logos.
Yeah, I would say that would be the right call.
Yeah. I imagine so is Alex, and looks like he did that. Great. Played out his lab work, passed it along. Freddy is going to respond with the logos turn, also building up an archive. Both players are set up here. no turn 1 witches.
Kind of an unfortunate draw for Freddy. He draws a Academy Training, an upgrade with no creatures in play. So we'll see
Yeah,
if he
that's
values
right.
that Academy Training enough to keep it in hand or just discard it.
Oh, okay. Well, yep. Decided to discard the Academy training.
And it looks like he's going to have a pretty strong Star Alliance turn coming up. Alex just plays out his 2 Logos cards. Really strong to have Mobius Scroll in play right away.
Definitely. And, he doesn't know this about Alex's hand, but he has an answer to his witches immediately on the board. If, Alex were to play out any of his witches, his hunting witches or his Witch of the Eyes. So this is some good potential pressure coming from Freddy's side. Yep.
Yeah. Freddy's doing exactly what we said this deck wants to do, which is just play multiple creatures in one turn and just get value from them over and over again.
That's right. Yeah, and it looks like he's choosing to give his Tabber the upgrade, which is correct choice here. And Chief Engineer Walls is ready to bring back Academy pretty much any point.
Oh, he decides to bring it back right away.
Okay, all right. So he figures he wants to get in his hand now before someone on the opposite side of the screen takes out Walls. All right, not a bad play. It does prevent him from drawing 1 extra card, but he has a plan. Let's see if it works out. Alex is deciding to make sure that there's no actions that can be played this next turn.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he's going to go for another setup here. He's going to be able to archive up to 3 cards, plus the Mobius Scroll if he wants to. So it's a pretty big draw step here. And that was 3 untapped cards, one of them being a witch.
Mm-hmm.
So he's setting up for a burst. Good, very good.
Right. But Freddy is totally okay not playing any actions right now.
That's right. Right. Freddy's just happy that Cultural Exchange Officer Tabber is left on the field for him to start shooting out some other creatures. He's got pretty great options now. He can do Phil, he can do Theros Centurion, and he's going to be able to get a chance to throw out his Science Officer Can and immediately get a steal off of Alex's next play.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard board to stare back at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're expecting a big Shadows turn from Alex's side. The question is, what do you get, right? He's got 2 options, Walls or Can, and I can imagine he doesn't want to continue to lose his Amber after he puts out his other 2 houses, but there is, I think, a pretty decent argument for choosing Walls. I suspect he's going to choose Can here.
Yeah, if he does go Shadows, I think Can would be the choice. I think what Alex is considering right now is, does he want to let Freddy get that first key? Because if he chooses Shadows, he's got no way to take him off that key, right? With Untamed, he's at least got this Murmook that's going to make him not forge during his next turn.
Push up during it one more. That's definitely true. That is definitely true. Although I think the choices are okay to worse. Throwing out he's got 3 cards in his. Oh no, his archive is 5 full now. Yeah, so he could throw out a fairly decent bursty turn. Looks like he opted to see.
He's fine just giving Freddy that key to have a more efficient turn.
That's right. Yeah, he's looking for his pieces. He wants the sting. He wants the cheats. he wants the combo to go, and he knows that the only way to get through the combo is to start digging through the deck. And it looks like it pays off a bit. He's got both the Witch and the Sting in hand, so his pieces are coming together. Maybe not too late. Freddy only has one key, and no Saurians are out yet. Oh, sorry, one Saurian is out. That's right. That cultural exchange officer exchanging culture is very efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, being able to just have a big Tabor is so strong.
That's right, and it looks like we're going to see the return of Phil on this next CXO read. Oh, he's opting for the City Gates. Oh, I actually really like that play. He's getting ready to take Alex off of any potential check now that he has at least 2 dinos coming out. And there might even be a argument for him in his next Star Alliance turn to just put out the Golden Spiral and be able to use Phil immediately off the bat, plus the city-state interest in the Ancient Powers. Okay, well, things are looking pretty bad for Alex here. It seems that in this matchup, the creature-heavy deck, the efficient creature-heavy deck here is really pulling through, which we expected, but we'll see how long it pays off for.
Yeah, but a really clutch draw for Alex here. The Nature's Call shows up just in time.
That's right.
I think that's going to be really important. If Freddy gets a couple more turns, he's going to be able to do the dream play again, the city state into the Ancient Power. But that Nature's Call will put a stop to it. And you got to think that Alex is ready for an Untamed turn next.
Yeah, I think that is definitely going to be the play. Alex is probably hoping that creatures don't get city-stated plus Ancient Powered, and there seems to be no threat of that right now. There's the Golden Spiral, like we had just talked about. Freddy is really looking for investing now to get his returns later. That's the kind of player he is, and he is saying, all right, well, you better have something to respond to my board, because if you don't, the next time I get dinos going, it's not going to be good.
Right.
Yeah, and it looks like you called it. He's going for his Untamed turn here. Just going to burst out the gate and bring out as many as he can. And what do we think? The bounce targets are likely going to be...
it's got to be Tabor. It's probably going to be Theros Centurion. And then probably Commander Chan would be probably my choices, I think.
I think those are the plays. Yeah, and
he chose exactly Melina instead of Chan, but the main two he still got. So that's the second key for Freddy.
That's right, second key for Freddy.
But 19 Amber. 19 Amber on the side of Alex.
Wow. And 4 of those Amber are coming back to Freddy with his city-state play. Oh, looks like Freddy played his cards in slightly the wrong order. He should have played the Regrettable Meteor before he played out Phil. But, Phil is just so pretty that you got to get him out as quickly as possible. Okay, and capturing 2 more. Yeah, well, looks like the Saurian engine is going. They are capturing as much Amber as possible, as we expect them to.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed about the deck that Freddy brought to the game, which is Alex is piloting now, is even though it's got a pretty fun Shadows package, it doesn't really have as much Amber control as we're used to seeing in Code of Shadows. And I think that's coming to bite this deck a little bit, because it's not playing into that archetypical strength that it was designed to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. Very little Amber control out of Shadows. You've got the Relentless Whispers to steal. You got to set up with Umbra and Dodger.
That's
But
right.
other than that, yeah, really not a whole lot. Miasma to slow them down, but it really leans into
That's
that
right.
sting strategy.
It really does. Great plays from Alex here, who was able to refresh his entire hand. And interestingly, he's got a cooperative hunting. Now, this is actually very cool to see on the board he's set up, because he's able to take out some of the wards if he needs to. It looks like a big target for this would probably be Phil. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much he can do about that Thera Centurion.
Yeah, it's just going to continue to collect Amber, using that
That's
City
right.
Gates every Saurian turn.
That's right. And, Star Alliance has its own golden spiral by the name of Commander Chan. So here we go. Phil running through the deck even more. I always find it fun to see what players' draw piles look like about partway through the game. Alex was leaning into the original strategy of let's find the pieces as quickly as possible, assemble the combo. So he's only got 6 cards left in his deck. Freddy's would have been able to get value without having to run through the deck. So he's still got a lot of impactful pieces left for him to play, including things like the Eddie, which he just picked up, and a couple more Thera Centurions. So he still has a lot that he's looking to throw out. Meanwhile, he's seen almost all of the pieces that would expect from Alex's deck.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm to be honest, I'm surprised that he only has 10 cards in his deck left. I'd expect a lot
That's
more
right.
considering how many turns he played very few cards, but I think that just shows the efficiency of this deck, that Tabor just playing cards out of his hand on these Star Alliance turns.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, and he's looking like he's opting to just continue the Star Alliance engine here.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Yep, reaping with Commander Chan to reap with Philophosaurus. Just some of the best plays you can make.
That's right. And, he said, great, you got 19 Amber from the Sting, but you can't stop 12 or 13 Amber, so
Yep.
I'm just going to keep going. Yeah, and an Eddie just for good measure, because Bing Zone hurt him.
Yeah, with 3 cards in the archives, you're paying 9 for that key.
Yeah, 9 for the key. That's
9 for the key. Try to
There-
key
there are-
charge, you're paying 10, right? So.
That's right. And he did. He paid 9 for this key. He's got 10 left. Things aren't looking too great when it comes to using that 10 Amber for 2 more keys. And he's pretty much out of options here, so looks like he did not find the key charge he wanted to, and doesn't really have a way of bringing anything back, so looks like we're seeing the end of game 2 here.
Yeah. And there's the key charge off of a Doc
There's the
Booked and
key-
Reap.
Right on time.
Right on time. Yep, and that's game over.
There we go.
Yeah, so fortunately for the viewers, we get to move on to the bidding phase for these two.
That's right. So we'll see everyone in game 3, and tune back in then.
So we've got Freddy here after game 2. Freddy, it looks like the tables turned that game. You got to establish the board and just dominate the entire game. How did it feel? Did it feel good? And what were your thoughts during the game?
Yeah, it was nice to give Alex a taste of his own medicine, of course. Just now I've got all these ridiculous guys with wards and amber, and they're way too big to beat them up with creatures. And yeah, no, it's about what I was expecting from this deck. I'm glad that I got to play the Star Alliance a little bit just to get a feel for that before we go into the bidding phase. I think that overall this deck is really powerful. I think that it's worth bidding a lot of chains on. One thing that I should point out is that I misused walls the first time I played him, and so I had Academy training sitting in my hand for virtually the whole game. So I was effectively playing with chains the whole time, actually.
Yeah, we had noted that had happened where you
Yep.
had the ability to get it back at any point, and you chose to right then and there, which that's fine. Small little error.
I didn't realize. I thought I could. I just wanted to see what was in my discard pile. I didn't realize I was committing to picking up the card at that point. And so I didn't actually want that card. I knew it was there. I wanted to. I was just checking if I had missed anything else, but I didn't think it was worth dealing with or stopping the game. So actually, it ended up working out because I got this extra information that actually, even with 5 cards, this deck just rolls. So, yeah. As to how many chains I'm bidding, I would be willing to go probably to 9 or 10. After that, it starts to get a little harder to justify, even with the Tabor and the Philosophosaurus and the archiving. Again, I think that even though this deck has been the one that's crushed both times, that if my deck does what it wants, it can very quickly sort of flip things on its head. If Alex had found that key charge, he would have been 1 key away. And granted, it was still a significant gap, but is it a 9 chain gap? I don't know. That's a little harder to say. So, yeah, I think that this will be an interesting one to go into, but I'll probably go up to 10. After that, I'm going to have to think carefully and base it, I think, a little bit off of how aggressively Alex seems to be bidding as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting bidding match here. I think the decks are really testing both players on, is combo going to beat out the engine cycle here, or is there a stable point after which they break down? So I'm really curious to see how you guys figure that out.
Yeah, should be some fun.
Okay, awesome. I look forward to the bidding. We'll see you in a sec, Freddy. Okay, we have Alex here after game 2. Alex, I'm blown away at how similar those 2 games were. We kind of had the same series of plays from both decks with different players. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts after game 2?
Yeah, I mean, that basically went exactly how I expected it. The cool thing about that was you kind of saw the Star Alliance side of that deck. So you saw the CXO Tabor kind of enabling the Philosophosaurus Golden Spiral, enabling the Saurian stuff, and the Commander Chan as well. But yeah, that from my side of things, that game went exactly how I expected it to go, pretty much. Without a board wipe, it's a super rough matchup. I think this deck can get to 2 keys if it finds the key charge, but I think getting that 3rd key just with no change is extremely difficult, because once that board goes down, it's pretty much impossible to deal with. With chains, it'll be interesting. I do think that it is heavily favored for my deck, so I think it's probably worth a good amount of chains, but because it basically relies so much on the board, less cards means less creatures, which means that board isn't as big. So things like Philosophosaurus will be even more important, and if you don't see that early, then it could be in trouble. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
One thing that we noticed was you actually went through more of your deck than Freddy did in his first game, but the outcomes were still very similar, and I think that was you recognizing your pieces as quickly as possible, and Freddy not getting his Philosophosaurus out nearly as quickly as you did, and still being able to pull on the pressure. So knowing all that, do you have an idea of how much you'd be willing to go up to?
Well, I started 0, right? So I think whatever Freddy says, I'll probably jump right to 6, make him go -2 cards. I think he will. Or -2 cards. I think he will. I don't know. I think it's kind of hard to say.
Sure, but at least 7 is something that you think this deck is going to do.
I think it's easily worth 7.
Great.
It may be worth considering like up to 12, like -2 cards for, what is that, 6 turns? I don't know if it's I don't know if it's worth 3 less cards though. I'm not sure. That's kind of pushing it, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting bidding match. We're looking forward to seeing you in game 3, Alex.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Alex. All right, so we have both Freddy and Alex in the voice chat now. Alex is bringing the winning deck. You get to start the bid at 0 chains. So the action's on Freddy.
Yep. So I'll start the bidding at 5.
Okay. I will go 6.
We'll do 7.
Yeah, I'll go 8.
Let's do it for 9.
I'll go 10.
Whew. Do 11.
And I'll go 12.
Oh, chains.
Oh man. I'll give it to you for 12.
Okay,
Sounds
sold.
good.
Sold to the owner of the deck. 12
Okay.
chains. Okay, let's.
Alex, would you have gone to 14?
No.
Okay, good. Then I'm glad I didn't try to push you up because I don't
No,
think I won for 13.
So Freddie, 12 or 13 was too much for you, right? You didn't want to
Yeah.
play it that high. The only reason you would bid is to make him go higher.
At that point, yeah, I wasn't even sure that I wanted to bid 11. I figured I could live with taking it for 11, but really I wanted to make Alex take it for 12 over 10.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I think it's worth 10 to 12.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought 10, 12 I think is pushing it, but let's find out.
Yeah, let's see how it works. Okay, let's
This is
hop in
gonna
the
be
game,
great.
guys. Okay, we're back here with game 3. Alex is starting the game with his deck at 12 chains. Let's see if this deck can play through those chains to establish that board like we've seen it done twice now.
Yeah, 12 chains is going to be really interesting, right? You're drawing -2 for quite a while, and -2 might be enough for the math to work out where you're not able to see what you want. The expected value definitely decreases a good amount in the early bit of the game, but we'll see how it works out. I think that early Philophosaurus or maybe an early CXO Tabber is exactly what Alex wants to see, and then the rest of it's just going to be rushing out as many cards as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really gonna, or Alex is really gonna hope for that efficiency play, just playing cards out, fighting through those chains, hopefully slowing Freddy down enough so that he can't pull off his combo.
That's right. Now Freddy is going to try to make sure, if I were him, I think that is going to just rush as much of the game as possible. I think he's going to take all of the time for the chance to just push as much advantage as possible, maybe even ignore the board entirely, which generally his deck wants to do, but he's just saying, all right, we're playing a brand new game where instead we're drawing up to 4, except I have 2 mothers on the board. You know, that's the kind of equivalent we're talking about.
Right. Okay, it looks like there was an error with the chain making process here, so we're gonna restart.
Okay, and looks like both players have started. Here is Alex with 5 cards in his opening hand.
A 3-1-1, kind of what exactly you're hoping for with a 5-card hand. I'd be surprised if Alex mulliganed this.
Yeah, I don't think you risk it past this. And meanwhile, on Freddy's side, Freddy's looking great, right? He's got a great logos opening, so I think everyone is happy here.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be able to dump 6 cards, and Alex is going to have a good 3-card play coming up. So probably as good as it gets for everybody.
Mm-hmm. You got to think from Freddy's side that Philophosaurus is a really threatening turn 1 play. I would almost imagine he was considering Nature's Calling it back to Alex's
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah, I think that was definitely in the books here. But maybe he can afford to be patient, considering Alex is not going to be able to dump more than 4 cards the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's that 3-card play, and now we got a brand new hand for Alex's side. His opening, so he's running through it at a decent clip, all things considered. And it looks like Freddy's just going to play optimally here. Chooses the Shadows package.
Yep.
Decides to continue on in. Put the pressure where he can. All right, so.
Interestingly enough, Freddy decides to play the Bad Penny. I wonder if that was a consideration to cooperative hunting, to have more creatures in play to deal more damage. I'm not sure there.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, and it's not that big of a risk on his side. Dilophosaurus doesn't really want to fight right now. I mean, he can, but he's going to want to reap, just get the amber play as well. And same thing with Melina. So he's either choosing between Star Alliance just to kill Bad Penny, or Saurian with no reap trigger. So that's a pretty safe Bad Penny play. And it looks like, now that we know that Bad Penny's out there, it also is a target for Relentless Whispers, so we can get a free steal right here.
Good point.
Here we go. Here's the Untamed play.
Yeah, it looks like Freddy sees now is the time to play that Nature's Call, and I would have to agree with him. This would be a really good turn for that.
Great. So he kills off the Melina. Decides it's not worth it. He's going to take his chances with Dilophosaurus being able to get back on the field at some point. But knowing that he's got a Dodger out also helps him say, I'm willing to trade my Dilophosaurus for... I'm willing to put 4 damage points on my Dodger just to kill your Dilophosaurus.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so Bad Penny's going to be a target, whether or not Freddy does anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if Alex anticipated that Relentless Whispers play, saying, all right, yeah, steal one, but I'm going to get one back anyway, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way to shut it down.
And Freddy says, fine, I'll just kill my Silvertooth instead.
That's right.
I'm going to deny you as much amber as I can.
Yep. Great plays. And he also wants Alex to be at 0 amber as often as possible.
Yeah.
Just to get his Key of Darkness live. In fact, if I were Alex, I probably would have thought, oh man, I'm going to get Key of Darkness right now. But he didn't have it.
Right. Yeah, Alex just takes a really quick turn. All of his turns have been very fast, kind of as we imagined. He's just trying to play as many cards as possible, get rid of those chains, get back up to working order with his deck.
Yeah, with 6 cards, your expected value with any given turn, not knowing any previous information, is a 2/2/2 hand, right? And here, when you have 4 cards, you've got a 1 1/3, 1 1/3, 1 1/3 expected value here, which means you're really not getting that much going. Hoping you can get some of your onboard engine synergy to get kicking in, and Freddy's just done a tremendous job of preventing that from happening. So it looks like those 12 chains are really paying off. Alex is down to 6 now, so very soon he's going to be drawing 1 extra card. But Freddy's taking advantage of the 6 turns that he has.
Looks like he decides to go Saurian here. Really wanted to kill off that Valen Analyst.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting play. I mean, I think that's a mark of an experienced player. Make sure that the Valen Analyst doesn't allow 2 extra Amber triggers every turn whenever you're playing Mobius Scroll or activating Mobius Scroll and Spectral Tunneler. But regardless, he's getting beat out here by just a ton of targets. You've got 2 Marmooks and a Witch of the Eye. Not to mention your Shadows package is still decent, and Bad Penny is looking very safe.
Right. Yeah, Alex has got to ask himself: is it really worth it to fight that Bad Penny just for that 1 Amber? It's it's really
That's right.
really not worth my time for that, right? So.
Yeah, not when you have a Witch on the field, and even then you've got Marmooks that are pushing your cost up.
Yeah.
He's still at 0 Amber.
Still at 0 Amber. Interesting. Freddy decides to hold the key charge.
Yeah, it looks like he is probably going for a key 3 play on that, saying, I don't even want to let this game go longer than it needs to go. And yeah, he probably expected some bit of Thera Centurion, shenanigans here. Meanwhile, he can just reap out and get that second key as quickly as he needs to.
Right.
Well played on Freddy's side. He doesn't see any major threats outside of Thera Centurions. There's no city gates on the field yet. There's no golden spiral. Dilophosaurus has been rendered completely moot here. So he is sticking to a plan, and it's working now.
Yep.
Yep, there's key number 2.
Mm-hmm.
He plays out a Dew Fairy and says, keep coming at me.
Yeah. Really interesting how differently this plays out with 12 chains on the deck that dominated twice in a row. Now we're seeing it with 0 chains, 0 keys, 1 Amber to 2 keys.
Yeah, and I'm reminded of what Freddy said after game 1, where he said, the game actually was much closer than what the Amber and the keys seemed to signal, because there were a lot of points where his deck, the one that he brought, could have just swung wildly into a positive Amber direction and just never got the chance to. So and we're seeing. So Regrettable Meteor has not been played yet, and we have a wild wormhole. And I remember, yep.
Yeah, it could be wild.
Yep.
So, Alex knows that series it plays, right?
That's right.
So, something he's got to keep in mind here.
All right, and he chooses to archive. So he's got an archive of 3. Eddie is in the yard, so that archive is not doing anything to key costs. But we now have a dinosaur that is in Logos.
Mm-hmm. Remote access on the Mobius scroll is pretty back-breaking.
That's right.
It's being able to archive. You take the Mobius scroll from them. You have to archive 2 cards of your own. So they put that time in to get that Mobius scroll up and running, and you just snatch it from them.
Yep. Great move. Okay, and here's that Shadow Self again. Interesting, because it's just going to be a target for Thera Centurion. But again, it doesn't matter in this instance, because Freddy's just got a much bigger board. He's got way more threats that he can deal with.
Yeah.
It looks like he drew a Miasma too, so I think it's going to be a miracle if Alex even gets this first key.
Yeah. So the bottom 3 cards in Freddy's deck, we have not seen the Key of Darkness yet. Is that right?
No,
we
not
haven't.
believe we've seen it.
And I'm almost positive we have not seen the Sting yet, unless it's the card in the archives. Freddy's going to have the Sting and the Key of Darkness ready to go. So worst case scenario for Freddy, I think he's going to play that Sting and just let Alex forge 2 keys and Key of Darkness for the win.
Yeah, and actually the archive card is the Mobius scroll that Alex activated, because that goes to the owner's archive, and the 2 cards that he was going to archive on his side. So he had an archive of 3 before, so it's now an archive of 5. So yeah, we definitely have the Sting. We have the Key of Darkness. That's 2 out of 3 cards are shadows. So he's got a pretty succinct plan here.
Mm-hmm.
Plays up the miasma because why chain yourself?
Yeah.
Just go to Reap Town.
Just gonna reap a bunch.
Yep.
So he actually gives Alex an amber to get an amber of his own with that bad penny. Discards the bad penny.
Yep. Great.
It goes into check here for the 3rd key. Alex behind the 8 ball. He's got to come up with something quick. He can do it with his Theros Centurions to take him off. But at that point, where are you getting yourself? Where are you going with this?
Yeah. He's playing 1 card from his hand. Could use Golden Spiral to draw another card. Now he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9. So he's used 9 of his 12 starting cards. So if he's looking for a draw off of Frutodon, I'm not sure there's anything he's going to be able to really benefit from. City Gates is going to come a little too late. He hasn't seen a Regrettable Meteor.
Looks like Freddy's anticipating something big to happen here. But I don't think Alex has anything. I think Freddy's maybe anticipating the city-state interest.
I think
that
so.
He's worried about it, but he's not drawn it yet.
He has not drawn it. Yeah, an Ancient Power was already in the yard, so city-state just takes him off check, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
If he had it. Yeah, so Alex opting to just crash in again with another Thero attack. Capture 1 more amber.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, okay, so Mobius Scroll comes back down because it was in the archives. We've just got a very simple Logos turn here. Nothing too spectacular, but still very effective because the last 2 cards in his hand are are 2 of his witches.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sting. Right on time, but basically inconsequential.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we have a pretty decent Star Alliance turn coming in.
Yeah, that's right. So Freddy not going into check here gives Alex the opportunity to play out the rest of his hand. If Freddy were to go into check here, you would almost think that, well, excuse me, I guess I spoke too soon here. With Garcia, you'd be able to stop that. But from Freddy's perspective, there was no way to stop him other than to continue to go Saurian, right? So you can force him to continue to go Saurian and not play out his hand. Not going into check allows Alex here to start to get back into the game.
Yeah, and Alex is it looks like he built up his Tabber again. He said, all right, like, I don't really have an out here outside of just getting more cards out on the field. So that's got to be my play.
Mm-hmm.
That's playing to his outs.
Yep.
Doesn't really seem like there's a good option otherwise. And Freddy says that looks really nice. I'm just gonna need to play what I can. So he puts out the sting. Yeah, figuring, you know what, might as well just take some amber out of that. Purging the Censor Chief. Yeah, that's really interesting. Since we didn't see the Light of the Archons early, I was even wondering if it made more sense to attack the Garcia just to push the cost of a key up. But that might have just been a losing battle. So. Right.
Yeah, you can push the key cost up to a turn, but when you anticipate the sting to come down, he's going to get at so much amber. It's going to be hard to stop.
That's right. Here's Freddy with a little bit of sting regret because he was already in check.
We've definitely all been there. Sting regret.
That's right.
Pervasive feeling throughout Keyforge.
Yeah. Well, notably now, city-state interest is alive and well.
Yes, incredibly.
Yeah, and I think agree with what Fred's saying here in the chats, where he maybe should have just foregone the sting, kept putting the pressure up since it is key 3. I think if I were in his seat, I probably would have done similarly and said, you know what, sting wasn't even necessary this game. I'm just going to continue to put pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're reaping out with the Star Alliance board, which makes sense. You basically have a golden spiral on a stick with Commander Chan.
Right.
You can bring back a creature, a robot really in this instance, with walls, and looks like, yeah, he's using the golden spiral off of Taber's trigger to, do it again, and maybe looks like, let's see what he decides to activate.
Yeah, it's so interesting how both players, I think, evaluated these decks perfectly. As soon as those chains got off, just boom, 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 plays these creatures out of his hand and dominates the board.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great point. He's unchained now, and we're really seeing the power.
Yeah, if you would have asked me 3 minutes ago who I thought was going to win this game, I'd have said Freddy for sure, right? Looking at this now, it's anybody's game.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Now here's the really interesting thing. Freddy hits Alex with the Scrambler Storm, stopping him from playing that city-state interest. So he's going to pay him 6 amber. Freddy's going to go to, at this point, 14. I think he's got that Key of Darkness in his archives.
Oh, he must. He must have it there. Not in his discard. Yep, that's probably what. Yeah, it looks like he's found it out. Looks like maybe there was a bug in the interface here. Freddy is missing an archive for one of his cards. I don't know what he was looking to archive. Probably doesn't actually matter too much here, but still not fun when you get hit with a bug.
Right. Yeah, this program being community developed, still a lot of unknown bugs here. Still an incredible program, though. Obviously,
that's right.
Yeah.
Always happy to be able to play friends online.
Right.
Whenever possible. So no complaints for sure.
This is just a repeat turn for Alex here. He's going Star Alliance. He's capturing as much as he can. He's reaping a ton, getting so much amber.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, how much of it even matters at this point, given what we know Freddy's going to do, although, yeah, we don't know what the 4 cards in his archive are. One of them probably being Key of Darkness makes sense. If he has a couple of other Amber Pip cards, all right, yeah, he's got to giving him one. Okay, cool. Going to reap with that and then toss out the...
Shoots the King Can for that extra amber, which is totally unnecessary. Yep. Key of Darkness for the 3rd key.
There we go.
Wow. And he got the combo off that he wanted to from the beginning.
He did, and just when Alex was starting to get his engine going. So I think any later than this, and it was not going to look good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, great games from both players.
Yeah, good showing.
Yeah, great showing for sure. And I guess we'll have them both on in a second to recap the games from their side.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, we have both Alex and Freddy with us now. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts on that series, that last game, anything. Let's hear it.
I can't believe I got Key of Darkness.
I got to live out my lifelong dream of winning with Key of Darkness. So
That is,
I
I think that's the
an
first
achievement.
time. Yeah, I've seen Key of Darkness forge a key ever, I think.
Let alone for the win.
Yeah, right,
yeah.
exactly. That was
But
beautiful.
that's what's cool about this deck is that you don't really care that you're paying that extra because you're just paying with your opponent's amber that they use to forge their key, thanks to the sting.
Right.
So it's weird, and it was a little weird when I found that that's how this deck works, but that's definitely what I was playing to towards the end.
Yeah, I didn't
I
even think of
knew,
that.
yeah, that was something where I knew that both of them must be at the bottom of the deck because they hadn't shown up, and so I managed to keep Alex off of his first key, and I knew that if I could just get the sting into my hand and play it out, that I would have a really good shot. When I did, I wasn't even sure that it was the right call because I could have just been threatening check otherwise and wouldn't have had to worry about getting up to 12 amber to forge. But I think that it ultimately ended up the strategy I used ultimately ended up working out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seemed like in this particular matchup, you took advantage of the fact that your deck maybe needed a little more time to put the pieces together. Time Alex was unchained. Yeah, he was starting to have these explosive big turns, but you had all this time to set up exactly what cards you wanted in your archive versus in your hand versus on the board, where you were getting cracked back for a decent amount, but it didn't even matter. You had exactly what you needed.
Yeah, and that's between the fact that Alex had 12 chains and the fact that this Logos in my deck just lets you fly through. You know, Alex has a lot of Logos as well, and so it does sort of mitigate those chains to an extent. But still, this deck is very quick, as long as you don't have to take turns off to keep the board state in check. So that was really how I was thinking about it was, well, I should be able to get to the sting before he gets to set up very much.
Right.
You know, if it's at the bottom of my deck, then hopefully I can still be in an okay spot. And to be honest, I was surprised at how okay I was, considering that the sting was in fact at the bottom of my deck. So that worked out better than I had actually hoped it would.
Yeah, how many more turns do you think you could have maybe sacrificed before the pendulum swung a little too far into Alex's direction and he would have gained it back?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, I had to win. If I didn't win this turn, I had maybe two more. So
Right.
I could have gone back into Key Charge, which would have let me forge much more easily than Key of Darkness. I had a good Untamed turn coming up. I had a Hunting Witch, both Witch of the Eyes and a Murmook. So it would have been a decent amount of Amber, and, you know, it would have put threats on the board, so Alex would have had to at least take some time to fight. But with those Thero Centurions, I don't know if that's even that big of a deal for him. So, you know, maybe I get those out. Maybe I pull off some key charge shenanigans. But I think it was gonna be tough if I didn't get it there. I didn't. My window was closing very quickly, and I think I really just squeezed in at the last minute.
Definitely. Well, and I think that makes it seem like, you know, the bid to 12 chains was actually a pretty decent call on both of y'all's part, right? It was within a window where if Alex, you had cards line up a little better within the sort of natural variance of the game and sort of a realistic variance of the game. Like if you had your ancient power, maybe your city-state interest a little earlier with a couple of Thera Centurions, you probably could have bought a few more turns for yourself, after which you would have come back and maybe had you know, back-to-back keys. Whereas on Freddy's side, he said, you know, 12 was within that gray zone where he had enough to work with.
Yeah, I think 10 to 12 is the right call.
Yeah.
I think actually seeing City State this late isn't necessarily a bad thing, because this late in the game, when I get rid of all my chains, I'm going to have control of the board. So I'm going to have, you know, 8 creatures out, you know, 6+ creatures. So it hits harder. Whereas if I see it early and it hits for 2 or 3, maybe not so much of a big deal.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Freddy, it seemed like for a few turns in a row, you were anticipating the city-state interest. You were kind of playing around it. Is that right?
No, not at all.
Oh, is it?
I actually, I mean, yeah. So I know that Alex has it, but it's not really something that I can play too much in this deck. I don't think. So what? Where did you see me making decisions that looked like I was playing around it?
It looked like there was at one point you were like, "Here we go." I guess I guess I thought you were anticipating it. Well, I get what I'm getting at here is I think City State was probably one of the biggest cards in this matchup. Probably one of the defining cards.
Yeah.
Would you guys both agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my
It
main
was-
form of Amber control outside of like fighting
Mm-hmm.
with the Centurions. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that there's a whole lot that I can do in this deck. For me, what I was thinking about was, okay, he's gonna be annoying with all the Theros Centurions, with the City State. Like, I'm gonna lose a lot of Amber. I just need to get as much out as quickly as possible and hope that I either have 7 when I have Key Charge or 12 when I have Key of Darkness. And for me, it wasn't so much about worrying about the board, because the board was just a lost cause as soon as Alex got down to, I'd say, 6 chains and he was seeing 5 cards in his hand. So for me, it was just get as much Amber out as quickly as possible to give me as many chances I have to board.
Yeah, and Alex, from my perspective at least, it looked like your strategy was just play the cards and burn the chains. Is that how it was for you?
Yeah, definitely in the beginning. Especially when I'm not seeing like the Centurions and whatnot. Like I know that I need to get those down, because if he puts down 4 or 5 shadow creatures like he had at one point and just reaps, I'm in trouble. So the Centurions can kind of help mitigate that quite a bit. So yeah, definitely in the beginning, just try and burn through the cards, build up the archives, and then once the chains are down, have these explosive turns where, as you can see at the end of the game, like having CXO Tabor down with Golden Spiral and 2 Commander Shans, like it allows this deck to do shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and that was the point where I knew that I definitely needed to make the game end quickly, because once you have the option to go either Saurian or Star Alliance and have a huge turn like that either way, there's just
Right.
most any deck will struggle to keep up at that point. So yeah, it was very close.
No, I think that's a really good lesson of just, I think, good Keyforge fundamentals too, right? Whenever someone has options, they kind of gain advantage. So as soon as your opponent has options, you should be sort of triggering your internal alarms to say, okay, I got to be a little more careful here. I need to make sure I find my path to victory a little faster and more efficiently than just buying time. That's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
the very end of the game, if we want to go through like the last couple of turns, definitely I would say Scrambler Storm probably won that game.
Yeah, Scrambler Storm was so big. You were saving up that City State interest to hit Freddy's Amber so hard. And he hits the Scrambler Storm at a perfect time where he could next turn play the Key of Darkness.
Yeah, it was absolutely the perfect time. I was going to City State and then immediately reshuffle and draw, which gives me the opportunity to like draw back into it. So that would have been pretty brutal. But yeah, the Scrambler Storm just completely nullified that plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you also could have drawn into Philosophosaurus, and then that would have given you even more chance to dig for it if you don't get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even considering Key of Darkness, but I knew that Key Charge was possibly coming up since you had reshuffled. Key of Darkness was never on my mind.
That's what Freddy took advantage of.
Nobody expects the Key of Darkness.
Alex is like, why even take up the brain space to think about Key of Darkness?
Right. Freddy's playing on another level.
That's
I was
right.
actually I was actually hoping that the Sting would come down earlier in the game so I could remote access it and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I saw that you could do to this deck, which I wasn't thrilled about. Was a little bummed you got my Mobius scroll as it was, but it ended up working out okay. But the remote access on the Sting was definitely a risk. There's not really a way to play around it except to hope that maybe you can stall with a lucky Scrambler Storm. Ended up working out for me there.
Okay, great.
Games, guys.
Yeah, GG.
Yeah, GG.
Yeah,
Those
good
songs.
games.